Hello. Today in this video we are going to talk about the glomerulus filtration membrane. Firstly, we will go through the overview of the glomerulus and the Bowman capsule, then we will look at the filtration membrane structures and functions. Thirdly, we will go through the summary of the important points. As all of you may know, the kidney is the main excretory organ in the human body. It is able to do this miraculous act of filtering because of the functional unit called as the nephron. Each nephron includes the glomerulus and a tubule. The glomerulus filters your blood, and the tubule returns needed substances back to the blood, and at the same time it removes wastes. We will be focusing on the glomerulus here in this video. As the unfiltered blood flows to the glomerulus via the afferent arteriole, about 120 milliliter of unfiltered blood gets pushed out into the Bowman capsule, which is the capsule that wraps around the glomerulus. So, what gets pushed out and the reason behind it? To know the answer, we must know about the filtration membranes of the glomerulus. There are three different filtration membranes in the glomerulus. The first filtration membrane is the membrane that lines the blood vessel itself. Remember, the external membrane that lines the blood vessels and all hollow organs are epithelia, which is the plural for epithelium. If the external is lined by epithelia, then the internal of the blood vessel is lined by endothelia, which is the plural for endothelium. At this specific part of the afferent arteriole at the glomerulus, the internal is lined by endothelia cells which have tiny holes, giving the name as fenestrated endothelia. These fenestrations are 60 to 70 nanometers in diameter, and this means anything that is larger than these holes, it cannot pass through the opening. So, blood cells like red blood cells, which are approximately 7,000 nanometers wide, and platelets which are around 50 to 200 nanometers are unable to pass through the fenestrated endothelia. Some students question, what about leukocyte, particularly neutrophils? Why did they ask that question? It is because neutrophil has the ability to squeeze through and migrate to the affected site. This migration of neutrophil can only happen if and only if there is injury. If there is no injury, neutrophil retain its original large shape, which is around 12,000 to 15,000 nanometers, which tells us that it cannot pass through the fenestrated endothelia. So, what can pass through? The answer is anything which is less than 60 nanometers, like ions. The second membrane is the basement membrane. Let us quickly revise the concept of basement membrane. All endothelia cells throughout the whole body sit on some connective tissue, and this connective tissue is the one which is called as the basement membrane. Think of these basement membranes as something like a cushion for the epithelia cells. Being said that, the basement membrane is made up of primarily collagen, and collagen is negatively charged. So, proteins which are negatively charged are repelled by the basement membrane as like charges repel one another. So, proteins like albumin cannot go through the basement membrane. The third filtration membrane is the podocyte cells. Podocytes are highly specialized cells that are found in the glomerulus. If we were to look at the structure, each podocyte has extensions which look like numerous foot coming out, just like an octopus. Another thing about these podocytes are the foot processes of one podocyte cell interdigitate with the foot processes of another podocyte, forming a network of extremely narrow gaps which is called as filtration slits. These filtration slits are roughly between 10 to 40 nanometers. These are smaller than the gaps at the fenestrated endothelia. The podocyte's function is to stop cells and proteins which may have escaped the fenestrated endothelia and the basement membrane respectively. Therefore, when we look at the composition of normal glomerular filtrate, we will find no blood cells and no proteins. The key takeaways of this video are: blood with waste products flow from the afferent arteriole and gets pushed into the glomerulus, where it will encounter the three filtration membranes. The first membrane is the fenestrated endothelia. The fenestrated endothelia are 60 to 70 nanometers in diameter. They block the blood cells from passing through but allow substances like ions to pass through. The second filtration membrane is the basement membrane. The basement membrane blocks proteins from passing through because it is negatively charged. The third membrane is the podocyte, which are highly specialized cells. These podocytes has numerous foot processes coming out that interdigitate with one another, forming a network of extremely narrow gaps called as filtration slits. The podocyte's function is to stop cells and proteins which may have escaped the fenestrated endothelia and the basement membrane respectively. The composition of normal glomerular filtrate has no blood cells and proteins. You can all read an article regarding the filtration membrane that I have linked in the description below. Please give a thumbs up, comment and subscribe if you find this video useful, as this will motivate me into doing more videos like this. Don't forget you can request your biology or medicine topics via the Google form that is linked in the description below. Thank you and see you all in the next video.